So here I had built an actual sequence that works out. So in this case, I'm going to have an air seeder. Is there any more questions here, or do we carry on?
If you have questions, raise your hand. But I think you should just carry on, Brent. Keep going with what you do.
Alrighty.
Yep.
So in this case, I'm going to pretend I have an air seeder on. It's a whole 15 feet wide, and we're going to try to plant our field here. And so we have our sequence, we have our very active steering in there, a couple different things. I had set up my distances where I want them beforehand. And now we're going to go into our map. And I should clear out my coverage. We have a big empty field here, or sorry, not big, we have an empty field. And there's no headlands, we have an AB line set, but we can, if we hit the settings here, you'll have this headland button. And then there's these flags in here that we're going to talk about. So with these flags, we can set, it'll basically show us where we need to turn on our or hit our sequence, the go end button. And I should maybe clarify this right now. This one does have some extra unlocks that we're going to talk about more as we go on here. But the turn assistant package, if you have that, you'll see the turn button with the arrow, as well as the auto teach-in logo there, the clover leaf. So those two come as part of a package. So what that includes is your auto teach-in, which I'm about to talk about here. It'll automatically trigger your go end sequence as you cross the headland line, and then also your auto turn, which will turn the tractor on its own on the headland. So those two buttons are an unlock. We could do that for you if you don't have it or if you want it. But this here one, you're going to see on every tractor, these flags. And so first we have to enter a headland width in our field, and we can either enter a number of implement passes or an actual width if you know the width. In this case, I want 3 passes with my air seeder. I can hardly go more than that, or else I've covered the whole field. And then we need to pick our sequences. So when I quit seeding, I'm going to hit my bottom end button. I pick the top one. So we could pick any of those 4 there that we want. And so when we leave the field, let me just go back. So here you can see that headland popped up there. So now we have headland lines, and as you can see, hopefully you work with bigger fields than we do here, but you have a little bit of field in the middle. For this demonstration, I am going to adjust those lines. And the headland segment settings, that's every tractor will have that, or any Profi Plus, I should say. Now I can adjust each line, and I'm going to go 4 different segments on my headland. So that numbers 1 through 4. And now I can adjust the width. So the one, I want that one to stay at 0. I'm going to put this one in at 45 feet, as well as my number 4. And now we'll go back, and you can see what that did. Now I had the sides set to 0 and the ends to 45 feet, or I could have put in 3 passes as well with my 15-foot seeder. And then it draws a headland line there. And so that's there now. Then we are going to go and turn on our flags. And we put our headland alarm on. That will signal an alarm that comes on whenever we reach the headland. And you'll be able to see here, there's now these fancy flags popped up on my tractor. So that will show us where we should be hitting the button, or whenever that, in this case, I'm going to cross the line here, and I guess you said set the other time, you can't hear it. I do get a little alarm there whenever my flags cross the line. So I can hear, whenever I hear that alarm, I know that's the time to hit my go button. Obviously that has to be set up so that your sequence is the distances are all proper so that it's actually at the right place, but that can be done. Before you get to this step, you're going to want to make sure that your teach-in sequence is fine-tuned the way you want it. And before that, you're going to want to make sure your implement is actually set up properly so that your width and all that is right. But then you want to make sure your teach-in sequence is somewhat how you want it. And then you can start using these flags. And if we go back to here, I have these both set to 9 feet right now so that they're right above the axle, which is where I had said I prefer it. You can put those wherever you want. And with something like a front mount mower or some different implements, it wouldn't work to wait until your rear axle is crossing the line, obviously. So you'd have to put it a lot further forward. We can put a minus in there and let's go 15. And then you'll see what that does. Oh, that went the wrong way. I'll go 20 feet. And then I'll just show you, I have it in my dash here too. The flag moved up front, the front of the tractor when I did that. So we can adjust those. There we go. We can adjust those flags to wherever we want them. If we know that we have to hit it when on the back here, let's go 15 feet. Oh, that actually, I want to go the other way. Let's go -10. That makes a bit of a unique looking one. I don't know where you would actually use this here, but in this case here, the orange flag is what it's triggering when you go into the field. So it'll wait until this last one crosses the line before it triggers it. And the front one here, it'll trigger it as soon as the front of the tractor is there. In this case, I'm going to set them back to my 9 feet again, which is where they were both in the same place. For me, that's less confusing if it's the same at both ends of the field. And one other thing to note with this here is the higher the accuracy, the better it'll work. So obviously, if you're running WAS, the lines can shift around, your headland, your theoretical headland line can shift around too. And so it won't necessarily be accurate to just go off of this here. If you're running on WAS, you'll probably be better off figuring out where on the tractor you want to drop that line every time and then hitting the button when you cross it rather than going off your display. But if you're running a higher accuracy, this here will be an added little feature that you can use so that it triggers a little alarm, you hear it, and you know when to hit the button, which depending if it's really dusty, it's kind of getting dark, it can sometimes you almost have to slow down and take a second look before you know where you are actually going, or if you're no-tilling or something like that. It's sometimes hard to tell where your headland actually is in the field. So this here can help with that. Let me see. I think we're ready to try this here. So I'm going to cross my line. As soon as I hear the beep when the flag crosses, I hit the go. And then it started painting at the right time. I come to the other end here. I'm going to hit the end. And that'll give you a good idea of when you want to hit that line. Or sorry, not the line, but hit the go end button. I kind of missed that one there. Got some added traffic here. So that there will work with the standard. It's standard on every tractor. You don't need any unlocks to do this here part of it. Now, if you want to take it a step further, which I'm not sure why you wouldn't want to, and then you're going to want that turn assistant unlock. And what that does for us now is I'll just show it here first, I guess. I'm going to engage my auto steer on the line, and then I have to turn this on as well. Confirm activation of TI auto. Yes. Now you'll see that the Go 1 pops up with the auto there. And so now when I'm driving, the auto steers on, it triggers that sequence on its own. And I should get this set up then so that you can see what's all happening here a little better. I'm just going to drive around to the end here. Because at this point now, I'm no longer hitting the go and end button. It's doing that on its own based off of that flag and the alarm. Whenever the flag crosses the line, that's when the tractor will engage that sequence on its own. I'm just gonna back up here a bit. And I should see if I can put this here where you can get a bit of a better idea what's actually all happening here. That gives you a bit of an idea. Okay, so I hit my auto steer here. I'll put my cruise on. And when we hit the line, you'll be able to see the red remote stroke for a little bit. And the painter comes on. And then at the other end, it'll be the same thing. I'm not hitting any buttons here. It crosses the line. And if it's set up the way it should be, it'll be right at the mark. Just get away from the building here again. So that there does add another level to it. You can, you don't have to be hitting the buttons anymore for your go end. It will automatically trigger that sequence. So that will make sure that you do get it done at the right time. Obviously here again, the higher accuracy is even more important, or else it'll have a jagged edge and it won't necessarily be right where you want it. But if you do have a higher accuracy, like TerraStar C Pro or a RTK or even a TerraStar L will work better than WAS. And then you can get that thing shutting off and starting right where you want it. And with that unlock, you can also, here you can see I have my, I'm gonna leave the exit one off. We have the TI auto offset calculation. So if I hit this one, I go in here, I hit my auto steer engage, and then whenever I'm actually ready, let's just go here so you can see it move. Now my flag moved up to wherever I was when I hit that button. That's where the headland was. So now it'll trigger it there. It's just another way to set it. If you know that you always had it where you're, if you're running a front mower, say your front mower gets to the headland, that's when you want to do it. You could set that flag and just hit the go where you normally do. It'll set the flag there on its own. This case, I'm just gonna drop it back again. With something like this here, I don't need to have it set that far up. I'd rather have them both at the same. Get rid of that. And I was going to show, this case with an air seeder, I would have my, I'm gonna say I have a fan on there too on the orange. So I can't obviously run that with the sequence because I want it going the whole time. I can turn that on, lock it. My orange remote is now on full time, regardless of where my sequence is at. And I should show you too. I'm gonna clear out this coverage again first. And if I'm doing the, okay, so I hit go here. Okay, I'm not sure why I didn't use the auto, but I can hit the, we'll do that at the other end. It's going through its sequence, which it's going to do once we get here. I can hit this stop button, and then the thing was gone before I got there with the camera, but the stop ISB button down here stops the teach-in sequence. So if you're halfway through a sequence or, let me just get my engine speed down again. So if you're partway through a sequence, let's say you have your your big corn planter, you've got your markers on it, and you started your sequence and you see your neighbor pulled up beside you with a coffee right beside the planter. He doesn't know much about these things, and your marker's coming down on top of his truck. You can hit this stop if you want to, and it'll stop that marker. Probably depends who it is. So let me just stop this paint. Let me see if there's something that I'm still missing here. I think my time's almost up. There's overlap settings down here too, so you can set where you want that. If you want it's so that as soon as your first corner of the implement hits the headland, that it triggers it, or if you want a full overlap or half in between, that can be set there as well. I think that is getting close to the end of my time here. Is there any questions at this point? Something I missed, something that wasn't clear?
Any questions for Brent? Don't be shy. If you have some, now's the time. If not, then we'll be done with that session. Thank you, Brent. Maynard has a question here for you.
Oh boy.
Hey, Brent, can your auto guide engage be part of that automatic sequence?
Things you don't know the answer, I'm going to tell you. So no, it cannot be a part of the auto sequence here. With the auto teach-in, the auto steer has to be engaged separately. And as you could see, so here, the goal there, it's not lit up until I hit my auto steer. I engaged it. Now this lights up, and it's actually going to run through my automatic sequence. It's kind of a safety feature, and also Ryan's going to be talking about the turn assistant, the automatic headland turns after brake here, and that'll become a little more apparent then when we do that, why it can't be a part of the sequence, because it'll have to, obviously it uses your auto steer to do the full turn. So if we're trying to cut it out at the headland, it won't work. So you do have to, in this case, hit the auto steer before it'll trigger that automatically. But if you have this unlock, you're likely going to want to use the turn assistant anyways, because it's all part of the package. But this here will work if you're filling in a corner or something. You just have to engage it separately, but good point.